Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
Are you ready for this?
I was born ready.
Exactly.
Are you ready, listeners?
Listeners are always ready with bated breath.
Bated breath. That's such a good word.
They are awaiting our delivery of beer knowledge and reviews into their auditory systems.
Hello and welcome to What's on Tap podcast. I am Martin.
And I am Stefan.
Oh.
And today on NPR's What's on Tap, we will discuss two vintage beers that are new to the show or possibly have been reviewed before. We're not entirely sure.
No, we're quite sure.
But it should be a pleasant auditory experience for everyone involved. We're very much looking forward to your feedback and donations to this month's NPR campaign drive, where you can get yourself a free tote bag or listener mug for just a mere donation.
That's really good NPR voice.
Thank you.
And this week's donation charity is Semi-Drowned Kittens.
Oh, they're not drowned yet. They're semi-drowned. They were rescued before they were fully drowned.
Only you can save them from full drowning.
Oh my god.
So actually, I have manipulated Stefan into bringing out a very cellared treasure, and in return, I only need to bring a semi-fresh release that has been out in this world.
Haha, joke's on you. I bought this 3 years ago. Now, so what we have is the Pannepot Grand Reserva Vintage 2011 Old Fisherman's Ale aged on oak.
Are you an old fisherman?
Apparently I am. I'm aged on oak as well. This comes in at a 10% ABV, so this is not a light beer. And, you know, the Pannepot is known as a cellaring beer.
Yes.
You kind of just buy them to put them in a closet and forget that they exist for like 10 years. Kind of like the Thomas Hardy beers, where you buy them and then you just put them in a corner and you let them gather dust and forget that they exist for a long time, and then you dig them out.
And someone comes along and says, wow, you have that old vintage of that particular beer, and you go, I don't know, let's go check.
Exactly. Which is kind of how you were like, oh, you have this beer. And I'm like, I do? Well, then let's have this beer. So I believe I bought this online like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Nice.
And so I have not held on to this since 2011. I can guarantee you that.
Okay.
Because that would have been a little bit before I moved to Sweden. And I wasn't buying and cellaring beers at that time. So,
but worth mentioning is that Struss makes Pannepot, Pannepot Reserva, and Pannepot Grand Reserva.
Yep.
And they're all cellarable.
But
the Grand Reserva is the best.
Yeah. The Old Fisherman's Ale is kind of the name of the beer. Yeah. And it's quite a good beer. It's quite enjoyable. I've had many different vintages of this. And it is a beer that you really want to not drink fresh, but really just put in your cellar, put it in the back of your closet, forget that you have it, and then in 5, 10 or more years, you bring it out and then you share it with your friends, and everyone's impressed that you've had a beer for 5 years. But it's actually quite tasty and quite enjoyable, so I'm really looking forward to digging into this one.
I'm sniffing it now.
Yeah.
It's a light, raisiny, date, sweet imperial stout. It's not an imperial stout. It is a Belgian strong ale.
Yeah.
But it's those kind of flavors.
Yeah, there's a lot of candied fruit, dark fruits in there.
Let's try it. Cheers.
So we're serving this right at room temperature, so it could have been a little bit colder, but
it could.
I think it's very well carbonated, very sweet, kind of a dry finish. It's pretty solid beer.
Dry fruits are definitely coming into play in the flavor. It's less of these like candied fruits and more of the dark fruits. You pick them from a bowl in the kitchen.
What I like about it is it's really light. You don't think 10% when you try this.
It's
As a matter of fact,
extremely drinkable.
it sneaks up on you quite hard because I could see just serving this and not know if people didn't know it was 10%, they would drink this pretty quickly because it's so drinkable. Very, very dry, clean finish on it. With a slightly bitter, raisiny kind of finish, which makes you just kind of think, that's quite pleasant. I could go for a little bit more. And because it gives us a dry finish, you're thinking, I'm kind of thirsty too, so I should probably drink a little bit more.
Yeah, but I still would consider this a dessert beer, even though it doesn't taste anything like booze. It's so sweet, so it could serve as one of these like digestives.
Yeah, it would be a nice digestive.
Sipping it slowly after dessert. It's really fun. It hides those 10% like few other beers.
If I didn't know this was 10%, I would never guess that because there's no booziness, there's no alcohol notes. It's just so light and clean and delicious. I'm really, really enjoying this.
It is actually amazingly smooth. It's quite. The mouthfeel is very light, but it's not supposed to be this thick pastry monster.
No, but it's also not, I would say, super Belgian-y either, where you just feel like this is a sugar bomb that's going to give me a horrible hangover the next day. I really, really like this. So what would you rate it?
First, I want to say that a lot of Belgian strong ales, they have a quite yeasty aftertaste. This one has none of that.
Nope.
Maybe it's the age. Maybe that just goes out with time.
It could be aged on oak part, kind of takes it out. You're not getting a lot of sour tannin on this either. It's kind of there, but it's really, really light. It's not overly prevalent. It's only on reflection that I kind of sense it.
I'm getting more chocolate on the aftertaste now.
Yeah.
I guess I'll land on a 425.
Yep, that's about where I feel as well. It's solid beer. So if you could find Pannepot beers in Scandinavia and Sweden, they show up annually, I believe, in end of August versus September. There was a big Pannepot release. I think there was 2 different editions over separate weeks that you can find. Probably can still find them at Systembolaget. Pick up a couple bottles. Cellar them. You're going to be really, really happy in a few years when you bring them out.
Yeah, and if they aren't available at Systembolaget, many European web shops will actually still carry different vintages and variants of Pannepot.
Yeah, it's a great beer that true beer nerds in the know grab them because they know they're going to just cellar amazing and just be a real treat to have.
Yeah.
In a few years. Kind of like the Stilla Nace.
Yeah, from De Dolle.
De Dolle, yeah. Which I personally don't quite understand the love of. I've had many different vintages and I'm always kind of like...
Stilla Nace goes way more into this Christmas beer category that Pannepot has always avoided. This is...
Well, I know like the Stilla Nace, it's like... McKellar just goes all over themselves, and they do like these crazy 10-year verticals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had different vintages from different years, and I'm always kind of like, I just don't get the... Yeah. I just don't get why this is such a big hype thing.
No.
But sure. I know people love it.
And I mean, Struss has their own web shop. You can probably buy different variants of Pannepot there constantly.
Yeah, more than likely. They bring different stuff up from time to time. So, yeah, check that out. So moving on, next we have another vintage beer. And this is the Prairie Artisan Evil Twin collab that came out a few years ago called the Barrel Aged Bible Belt. Now, we reviewed the Barrel Aged Bible Belt Jesus back in episode 40?
40, yeah, that's a long time ago. And that was the Evil Twin can, or maybe bottle, but it was the Evil Twin label.
Yeah.
This one is the Prairie label.
Exactly.
I would say that this is actually as fresh as the 2019, but when we Google vintages, the bottle doesn't say, obviously.
No.
I'm just going by when I bought it. Like, it should be the 19, but it might be the 18. It doesn't. It's not that old. I primarily brought it because all of our friends love barrel-aged Bible Belt, and we've had different. We've had it. You and I have had it along the years with different people, but we've never had it together.
We have not. And I've had the original version twice, and the 2018 version at least once, or chicken at least once, probably twice as well.
Yeah, probably. And no matter what the vintage on this one is, we've never had this one.
No, that's true. And this is basically, it smells like Prairie Bomb on whiskey barrels. There's a lot of like chili upfront notes on this.
It does smell a lot like Prairie Bomb. We don't. I didn't Google to see if it had chilies, but it has to have, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much chili notes on the front end of this. There's no way that this wasn't a chili beer.
I mean, yeah, okay. So, coffee, vanilla, chilies, and cocoa nib.
So, Prairie Bomb.
Pretty much.
Basically, that's what Prairie Bomb is. This is a barrel-aged Prairie Bomb, for the most part.
No, but there is a non-barrel-aged Bible Belt. There is there's some difference in the recipe.
Is that would that be the Evil Twin version making of Prairie Bomb?
No. Yeah, but this is the problem with collaborations. When two breweries go together and they make a beer, but they both brew different versions and they have the same name. So there's a Evil Twin Bible Belt and there's a Prairie Bible Belt.
True, I guess. Yeah.
So I'm just assuming that there's some difference in the recipe.
And there's a Bible Belt Jesus, and then there's a barrel-aged Bible Belt Jesus, and then there's something else, something barrel-aged Bible Belt Jesus. Because if Evil Twin makes one version of a beer, they're making like 10.
Yeah. And you and I have had like the Evil Twin weird versions, like Un Mas Jesus.
Like, there's 7 or 8 different Un Mas Jesus.
Yeah.
Beers. But yeah, so this is.
We still haven't tasted it. Yeah, I mean,
I'm getting barrel notes, and I'm getting chili on this off the nose.
Yeah, and the chili I'm getting is of the greener variety, like jalapenos or even green bell peppers. We have a friend who hates green bell peppers in beer. Pontus, if you're listening, you might not like this based on the aroma.
The initial taste is really light, very pleasant, sweet vanilla, but then you get
It's building and building.
You get the barrel aging as it finishes.
Was it rye whiskey?
On this? Oh, I have no idea. It doesn't tell you. It says just aged in whiskey barrels.
Whiskey barrels.
Yeah.
In whiskey barrels, because this is definitely not Scotch whiskey.
No.
I would put it down as rye whiskey because that it gives that smooth little kick. I feel that stouts aged in rye whiskey barrels become quite smooth, but very flavorful. It's one of my new favorite barrel agings. It's almost taking over bourbon.
I'd be surprised if they did rye barrel aging on this. I think they would say it was rye bourbon barrels if it was. Because that if beer labels like anything, it is as descriptive text as possible to make it sound even to justify the price point.
Fair enough.
Of a $20, barrel-aged prairie beer.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's what they go for. You think like when you see the prairie beers in Europe, that, those are way marked up. There's no way they're that expensive. But really, the markup is maybe like $1 or $2, because even if you're buying them in Krebs, Oklahoma, you're still looking at $18 to $20 a bottle. A lot of times.
Yeah.
They're not cheap. And Krebs, just like so, if you're ever going through Krebs and there's absolutely no reason you should ever go through Krebs, Oklahoma, because it is literally off the beaten path. You have to get off of the main highway, make a right, and then you get into this really, really small town of nothing. And then
it's not nothing.
There's this one liquor store right off of the main through street that sells like the kind of the main distributor of the Prairie Artisan beers. And in fact, as you walk in, they have a little display as you walk in to get their beers. And they're crazy expensive there as well.
Yeah. So I Googled it now.
Yes.
It is aged in Heaven Hill whiskey barrels.
That sounds about right.
As the name suggests, the base beer is Bible Belt, a 13% Imperial Stout, first released in 2014, that combines Evil Twins, Even More Jesus, and the same spices and other adjuncts that are in Prairie Bomb.
So it's Even More Jesus with the flavors of Prairie Bomb.
Made at Prairie.
Yeah.
So they took Evil Twin there, like, okay, we take your recipe, we take our spices, and our brewery, bam, you got beer.
And then they just barrel aged it.
Yes.
Yep.
And why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't tasted it in a while now, and the flavor has actually dissipated from my taste buds. But I like it. I like this beer.
It's quite nice. It's, again, very, very drinkable. It is a little more of alcohol burn on the end, but I kind of expect that from this beer. And I think we'd be disappointed if it wasn't there. I think the adjuncts are still pretty nice and flavorful there.
Was it 13%? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the 10% on the Pannepot Grand Reserva and the 13 in the BA Barrel Belt are miles apart.
Yeah, I would say mouthfeel-wise, about the same.
Yeah, kind of.
Maybe the Barrel Aged Bible Belt's a little bit thicker, but not by much. But the experience is like night and day.
Yeah, but the booziness of the Bible Belt actually fits it because of the chili and the coffee and the other adjuncts.
Yeah.
The Grand Reserva just stands on its own legs, basically.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I'm going to give the Barrel Aged Bible Belt a 4, I think.
I'm going to give it a 4.25. So it gets the same rating, but they're playing on such different ballparks.
Yeah.
They're not playing the same game.
Oh, very much. Yeah, so one's playing like fast pitch softball and one's playing baseball, basically.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, that's... It's two different games.
Yeah.
And they can both be good at it. I'm getting... my mouth wants more barrel aging, so I keep reaching for the Bible Belt. That does not mean it's the better beer, by far. It might just mean that let's save the Grand Reserva a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way I feel too. Like, I could drink the Bible Belt first, but I kind of want to save the Reserva for later.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I think that we've once again tackled 2 really outstanding beers that have aged quite well.
And the lesson learned today is we need to dig even deeper in your cellar.
My cellar? You have the much deeper cellar of the two of us.
My cellar has lambic, but I have very few Belgian beers in my cellar.
I just hear excuses.
Yeah.
Technically, lambics are all Belgian beers. So I would say primarily you have Belgian beers in your cellar.
Belgian. Now I almost said Belgian style. Oh, Martin, are you saying lambic isn't the Belgian style? Pannepot style beers.
Ah, okay.
Haha.
So, okay.
I trapped you in a loop of logic.
Sure. All right, you can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify,
and wherever you can find good quality podcasts.
You can find us. So until next time,
keep drinking your down.